Thank you, Andy. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Most of you hopefully know GfK. Can't be asked, very honoured to be here to talk to you about the state of the market, or as I've told it, what has the internet ever done for us. If you know GfK, our bread and butter, or certainly my bit of GfK's bread and butter, is the sort of the big data. So processing a lot of numbers from retailers, tills, and working out what's selling. So unfortunately, I was told to cheat all up, but it's actually quite a lot of the doom and gloom. My sort of first request for you this morning is to just bear with me. We will dig into the numbers and actually pull out what's growing and some opportunities, but I was asked to give you the state of the market, so there will be a little bit of that doom and gloom as well. So to start with, on that doom and gloom theme, it feels anyway like the end of the world, you know it. I try and put song titles in as many of my stories as I can. And obviously, this isn't breaking news. We've got post-Brexit, a weakened pound, a lot of consumers braced for price increases. We're very sort of interested to know what's going to happen at the moment with our data, seeing what the price of products is going to move and what the 2017 ranges are going to be priced at, and will the customers swallow it. Just looking back over a pretty grim 2016, we feel like a lot of my favourite music artists died for a start, but that's the side issue. We had post-Brexit, a bit of a shock. I joked to all my colleagues at our office in Woking that I'm off to work for GfK America following this decision that I wasn't too happy about. And then they give this guy a job. So unless they open a GfK on Mars, I'm stuck here for the time being. And looking at our numbers, in particular in terms of how the shape of the market changed over the peak season, it felt like Black Friday and the kind of the bun fight and the discounts and all that kind of stuff felt like one big last hurrah in terms of splurging consumers before we reach a 2017 where potentially people are going to be tightening their belts or braced for an increase in goods, or the price of goods, I should say. We do a measure called consumer confidence, so not the till sale stuff I work in day to day. It's a measure of confidence based on a questionnaire that a set of people answer. How happy are they? How are they saving, managing, just borrowing money? And this moves into an index which at the end of the year closed at -7, so not the worst consumer confidence we've ever seen. Those of you that remember when Lehman Brothers crashed, or when Northern Rock was in a disarray and there was people queuing outside to try and get their money out of the bank before they lost it, that was consumer confidence was minus about 35 then. So around the -10 mark isn't actually that bad, because in this country we can be a little bit Daily Mail sometimes. And what we saw actually throughout the summer is, again, being British, good weather always helps, and actually we saw that Brexit happened, everyone was shocked. And then the sun was shining, and actually, if you look at other data sources, WorldPay, for example, quoting that actually a lot of people still went out to the theatre, still went out for dinner, consumer spending actually lifted. So the confidence did actually pick back up, and we reached post-Brexit levels, pre-Brexit levels. Then we have the next bounce, if you like, so the Trump slump. So Donald Trump gets the job in America, and we see another dip in consumer confidence. There's no big surprise, I'm sure, but the word on the street from my colleagues in Canary Wharf is that confidence will continue to worsen. I think the good news behind it is when you look at some of the questions that they answer, customers are braced for an increase in prices, so they're not stupid, obviously, and I think that's one of the things, again, that I'm not giving you anything new here, that customers are clever. So we will be interested to see how that messaging comes across and how they embrace it. Certainly looking in the wider retail market, we already see there was this bit of a PR stunt with Marmite being delisted from Tesco, so the price of the general goods being fought over a little bit. I think this is where the consumer confidence will eventually start to really hurt, when they actually start getting hit in the pocket with things like petrol, groceries, etc., potentially meaning a delay in the purchase of luxury items. So, or to put it another way, if you're running a tablet or a laptop, and perhaps you'd like a new one, but if the cost of things is going up, then maybe you'll put off that purchase for another 6 months and work with what you've got. So that is a little bit of a worry. So overall, the doom and gloom message is that it does feel like there's going to be a bit of a storm coming, and we could see a little bit of a wobbly start to the year. We can't tell you individual retailers' performance with the way we work at GfK, but what I did do is look at the consumer electronics sector and just look at the top 5 retailers. Very interesting and potentially worrying that the retail market just continues to consolidate and has been steadily doing so for quite some time now. pretty much 60% of the value of goods spent on consumer electronics products tracked by GfK is actually coming through the top 5 retailers now. So it does beg the question, and again, a bit nervous putting this slide up in front of so many electrical specialists, but coming from a background where I used to spend a lot of time working with the likes of Comet, and then my colleagues working with the likes of Phones for You, big name retailers on the high street that have since seen the shutters come down. Is the specialist retailer an endangered species? I hope not, but yeah, it's certainly some worrying times. And even in the wider retail scene, the high street still faces a lot of the problems that it's faced as we came through the recession. So even last year, a big name BHS, not massive in the world of electrics, but still there are a lot of empty shops out there, and more we're seeing a high street full of charity shops, coffee shops, and that seems to be the only type of shop that appears to be growing its footprint. So, little history lesson. If we look at a film Back to the Future, Marty McFly starts his journey in 1985. Back then, some stats from my former boss told me that there were 22 electrical chains in the UK back in those days. Some of you might remember Rumbelows. We actually rented TVs a lot more, so Radio Rentals was a big name on the high street. And certainly when I was growing up down south, we had actually the electrical board shops as well had a bigger footprint. So I'd get dragged around to Southern Electric when my parents wanted to buy a new washing machine, that sort of thing. You might have gone to Midlands Electrical Board or similar, wherever you're from. So Marty McFly in Back to the Future 2 goes forward to 2015, but that's a little bit current, so we'll just skip forward a little bit more to 2017. And that chair's actually in the way, but basically there's five electrical specialists, chains left in our data at the moment. So yeah, great Scott. Looking at the independent market, back in 2010, indies had about 20% of the value of the electronics market, so 20p in the pound of a consumer electronics purchase was being spent in an indie. In 2016, that share has dropped to 9%. Our research team do universe studies to audit how many indies we believe there are in the UK to make sure that our data is representing all of them with our sample. And our 2010 universe was just short of 3,000, so 2,700 retailers. It is now just over 2,100. So we see as we go through these downturns, and this is the same when you look back through the 90s recession as well, each time there's a downturn, there's a cull of these stores, so it's quite grim reading for a lot of indies. And one of the reasons is the continued rise of the generalist retailer. I'm not breaking any rules by showing you the number of Tesco stores because they put it in their annual reports. But looking over time, their footprint, just as one example, has increased massively. You can look at Sainsbury's or any other generalist retailer as well as that are now moving in this electrical scene a little bit more. And we see that, certainly when I was kind of just starting my journey in research in the year 2000, less than 1,000 Tesco outlets, and there wasn't a Tesco at the end of my road. Now there's probably a Tesco at the end of everybody's road. Also affordability, so for example the TV was a much more considered purchase. Back in 2007 a 42-inch flat screen would have cost on average £910, so a very considered purchase and a big part of someone's salary. In 2016 the average price of a 42-inch is £262, so it's a lot less considered purchase. And we've seen that the generalists, so in GfK we talk about the mail order channels, so the pure players or the sort of catalogue type retail, so your Shop Directs, your Very Littlewoods, Amazon, etc. Taking quite a large chunk of that market, as well as mass merchandisers, so department stores, supermarkets, variety stores, all taking a bigger piece of that TV pie over a consistent period of time. Of course, it's the internet as well, so opportunity or threat, I guess it's different for some of you. What we've seen is it's certainly much more important in terms of where the money is actually changing hands. Back in 2007, roughly 14p in the pound was spent online on a CE purchase. In 2016, we're almost at 30p in the pound. In other areas, it's a lot higher. So in major domestics, it's even higher. In IT products, it's even higher than that. It's actually about 45% at the moment for IT products. And this is just where the money's changing hands, so literally what we're reading from the feeds from our retailers. The internet is still playing a part in some of those store purchases. So for example, if the customer is reserving online but then still paying in store, it's not included in these numbers. Consumer research suggests that it's roughly around about 6 out of 10 customers are using the internet in some part of their purchase journey. And just to put some further stats behind that, in 2016, we saw a TV market that in value terms declined by 3%. However, the online transactions of this market would still achieve double-digit growth. Laptops, a similar story, down 8%, but up around about 4 and a bit percent. Some consumer research into shopping behaviours and what customers see as the benefits of online shopping and the benefits of brick and mortar shopping really get to the idea that basically customers are greedy. Again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but customers seem to want it all. Online, they want to save money, they want to explore a wide range of products, they want lots of choice, and they want to get it fast. But brick and mortar, we still see the key elements coming from the shoppers there, saying they do still want to look and feel the products, particularly those more interesting niche products or more expensive products. Customers are still routinely going shopping as well, so that's important to note as well. And also, obviously, an online purchase will sometimes be a solo purchase. If you're looking to buy a whole suite of products, then you might want to have some assistance in that or do a round trip. So that leads to just a top-line look at some of our key devices. And generally, as Andy already mentioned, we've got a lot of devices plugged into our walls now. We've got quite high ownership levels and saturated markets. If we look at the last 7 years' sales and just divide that by households, it gives you an average, assuming that they're still in use. We've got TVs at 2 per household, hence a volume decline of -6.5%. Tablets, we're already at more than 1 per household. Only feels like the other day that more tablets sort of came to the market following the launch of iPad, but already we're at more than 1 per household, hence the double-digit volume decline. Digital cameras, a deep decline in this area. We've got 1 per household in the digital cameras market based on the last 7 years' sales. And in laptops as well, we're at 1.5 per household as well. So high ownership levels being one reason. Obviously the products are lasting a bit longer as well, they're better products, that's a good thing. And then also we've got convergence as yet another issue on top of that. So in the cameras market in particular, we're seeing more people consuming their music or media on their phones. So the poor old iPod Classic, I've still got mine faithfully, but I'm really worried when it breaks because I'm not going to be able to replace it. And the phone is slowly killing a lot of those devices, the compact camera being one of them. But where there's innovation, there's growth. What we do see in the TV market, yes, the top line numbers showed some declines. But when we look at UHD TV, for example, a market that's in 2016 worth £1.3 billion, we still saw high double-digit growth. So there is where there's an obvious benefit to the customer, but obvious upgrade, they're buying into it, and we see some nice growth there. Smart audio products as well, continued double-digit growth in that area as well. And then just to call out some of those key areas. We've got action cameras. We still see 9% growth in this market as well. So a market that's been rising for a couple of years now. In so many of these areas, we see that there's a hero brand that has a very high share. So just wanted to highlight that as well. So in action cameras, no surprise, it's GoPro, 87% value share of the market. So they're hero products, literally a hero product. Dash cams. Again, high double-digit growth in this sort of new market of people wanting to record their journeys for potentially insurance purposes. Nextbase enjoying 80% of the market in terms of value here. Health and fitness trackers, key gift item from last Christmas, and again, a strong performance this year. 2016 saw continued growth on the massive growth from the year before. 84% growth in this market. Fitbit, the key brand here, 92% of the market being owned by those guys. Smartwatches, again, huge growth in this market, and Apple being the top brand there. And then Andy already mentioned the smart home as well. We're starting to see some of those devices really pick up growth now in our data as well. So smart alert detectors, for example, still relatively young market, £2 million growth, but really coming from one product, a Nest product. They've got a huge 100% value share. Looking at appliances now as well, there is again innovation in these markets which is helping to drive growth. When we look at capacity, we've had the bigger American style fridges for quite some time, so that market's actually gone a bit flat now. But we've got things like higher capacity washing machines, still strong growth there, 49% growth. Range cooking as well, again continued growth over some time now in that part of the market. New technology as well, so induction hobs, pyro ovens, both high double-digit growth there for those markets. Smart appliances as well. Now that we're starting to see a wider range of smart home appliance products come to the market, we see strong triple-digit growth in that area too. And also customers are thinking about the environment, so efficiency products doing really well as well. For example, dishwashers that are using less than 10 litres of water during the wash, plus 37% in that market. And then more recent innovations, so we've had this the washing machines market that's seen a bit of a boost in growth. This add wash feature we expect to see more of in 2017. So being able to kind of add that soap that you dropped on the way when you've already started the wash cycle, seeing that helping boost the washing machines market at a top line level is actually up 6% now. And then we have the hairdryers market, a very mature market. People have been drying their hair for a long time, as you're aware. And then James Dyson brings us a product that's added a premium to this market, a £350 hairdryer, which I'm really glad I can't afford to buy for my wife. Plus 41% growth in the hairdryers market, pretty much fueled by this one product. We've got a couple of other key trends that we saw in 2016, which we'd expect to continue, at least for the first half of this year, ones that I thought you might be interested in. Anything gaming last year has just been a real key issue for the retailers that I manage, and we've seen a lot of excitement over gaming products. We see the monitors market, seeing sales of bigger, better monitors coming through. Again, 19% growth in the monitors market. Keyboards, not quite as much growth, a little bit more modest, but still the fact that gaming keyboards helping to prop up a market that again has been around for quite some time now, and keyboards not the most exciting market in the world, it's just a piece of plastic with keys on it, isn't it? But gaming keyboards has helped actually inject growth into this market. Similar story for mice as well, so some really interestingly named mice from the likes of Razer, Corsair. The Death Adder mouse is my favourite on that hit list for people kind of shooting people online and that sort of thing. We see double-digit growth driven from gaming mice. And then we've got the vinyl revival as well. So we've seen a real kind of something that's been sort of bubbling away for some time now, but something that really seems to have hit the mainstream retail scene throughout 2016. And we see turntables values up 61% for the year end. Certainly seemed like a bit of a landmark as a shopper walking around much more mainstream outlets and actually seeing vinyl on display. I was actually being dragged around a Sainsbury's doing the grocery shop and saw kind of Prince albums and Nirvana albums on the end of an aisle, and I thought that was a real landmark moment for being able to access this kind of classic music on vinyl as well in a supermarket. And the interesting thing about turntables is, although a lot of the business is being transacted around that kind of £59, £69 mark, could potentially be eroded further if there's new Chinese products going to erode that market. But when we look at the price point performance of this product, 21% of the value of the 2016 trade in turntables actually came through the £300 plus price point. So there is definitely a part of this market for the audio enthusiast. There is a potential argument for people that might be buying their Crossley Cruiser or that sort of thing to then think about an upgrade and to take it a little bit more seriously. And this is where the indies have a real strong share. We see independents have a 71% share of turntables that are sold over £300. So there is a great chunk of the market there of which indies have a strong share. It's a similar story when we look at things like smart audio. We've got a third of the value of the market is actually sitting above £300. Again, the indies have 22% of this market, so there are some reasons to be cheerful. Similar story in loudspeakers, 48% of the market, so half the market essentially is actually being transacted above £500. This is where people really need help and want to speak to an indie, because we've got indies are basically three quarters of that price point. So I'm just about on time, I think. What have I told you? Just to summarise, consumer confidence will worsen through this year. I've shared a lot of doom and gloom, mature markets, potential currency issues, etc. But we know that the customers are prepared for it, and there will be. It's just about how we get the message to them. We have seen the indies suffer on the long term, and there are a number of reasons, but high ownership levels, price erosion, rouse of the generalists, all that stuff. Again, you've probably all heard before, but it's definitely hurt, particularly in our numbers. The internet is an absolute key battleground, and the customer seems to want it all. So they are using the internet for their purchase, but they do want to explore a wide range and they still want advice. Wherever there's innovation, there's growth. Again, not groundbreaking stuff, but this is where we can find the positives in the data. And this is where we see the indies have very strong share in the top ends of a lot of these markets. So smart audio, turntables, loudspeakers, etc. All very interesting areas. Obviously, there's other areas you could potentially cotton onto. So the vinyl revival, the gaming market, all of those things hopefully give you some reasons to be cheerful. So I really hope this has been useful. Hope it's added a bit of context. I don't think we've got time for questions, have we? But yeah, that's fine. Yeah, obviously, if you do have any questions about the data, feel free to talk to me during the coffee break or something. Thanks for listening. Cheers.